Hello. Hi. Oh my goodness. Do you remember me? I'm Rebecca. I'm the host of the Me&You podcast. I feel like I haven't been here in forever because I went on a completely unannounced 3-week hiatus. And I'm very sorry about that, but it definitely needed to be done. I feel so much more connected to myself. It was the holidays. And then I actually went to Costa Rica. And I really want this episode to kind of serve as a coming back to yourself. But before we get into that, like I said, this is the Me&You podcast, a safe place on the internet for all things personal evolution and self reflection and compassionate community. This is a conversation between me and you, the listener. I love to talk to you. I love to hear back from you. I actually ran into somebody in a bagel shop the other day. Hey, girl, if you're listening. And, she had told me that she had been listening to the podcast and she loves it so much. And it was so awesome to connect with someone in real life like about this. And when I get messages on Instagram or DMs or people ask to collaborate or they give me ideas for stuff to talk about, I am so eternally grateful. I love hearing from you and I love engaging with you. And we're just two friends talking about the fate of the world while we maintain our mental health and self-love throughout the process. So that's exactly what this space is, and let's just go ahead and get into it. So 3 weeks ago was kind of Christmas. It was New Year's. There was a lot going on at my job as well. And I was really, really, really busy. And it felt like it was right to take a little bit of a breather. Season one was kind of me really finding my footing. I didn't really have a clear studio space either. Now you can tell I have a much more intentional space, obviously, behind me. And it feels so much better. It feels better to be grounding into the reality of this podcast, watching it come alive. If I had waited until everything was perfect to start, I probably would have never started. So I did have to start in that imperfect state, but you are going to continue to watch things get better and better. So I hope it adds to your experience just like it's adding to mine. And you also probably notice, if you have a visual component, that I have braids now and I absolutely adore them. I have gotten braids before, but it's been many, many, many years, and I just love them. I'm like, oh my God, I want to do so many styles now, and I want to keep them in forever. But anyway, so I really want this episode to be a coming back to ourselves. And, I literally got back from Costa Rica last night actually. And it feels really right to be recording and to be connecting with you about this. So I kind of want to tell you a little bit about the trip. I kind of want to help and guide you to come back to yourself. Life gets really loud and it gets really crazy, especially after the holidays. So let's take this time to come back. Let's all take a big breath in. Take one more little sip of air when you get to the top. And then a big exhale. Whew. Okay. We are here. Open your eyes if you close them. If you're driving, don't you dare close those eyes. Take a moment to notice one thing in front of your face. What do you see? What's one thing that you see right now? For me, I see the reflection of one of my paintings in the viewfinder. What is one thing that you hear? I hear the sound of my breath. What is one thing that you feel? I can feel my wrists lightly pressed against my thighs. What is something that you taste? We don't really think about this one a lot. We only think about taste when we're eating, if we're lucky, but there's constantly taste in your mouth. So take a moment. Do you taste the remnants of your toothpaste? Do you taste the remnants of your last meal? Maybe it's your last sip of whatever drink you've been sipping on. Maybe it's nothing like me and I just taste saliva. That's good. That's enough. And then what comes next? Let me think. What is one thing that you smell? I actually just refreshed my braids, so I smell Curls Blueberry Bliss in my hair right now. That's my favorite curly hair product, and it's a wonderful leave-in, and I love it to refresh my braids as well. But yeah, okay, I wanted to do a little sensory practice, kind of bring us back into ourselves. And actually afterwards, I'm going to record an episode for Patreon. So if that is something that interests you, I tried to make the subscription as low as possible. So it's literally $5 or $7. The $7 component, we can chat. Like I want to create like a community, guys. Like help me. I really want to create a community of like-minded, loving individuals where we can hop on and connect and share with each other about the ramblings of our lives and journal prompts, etc. But the $5 component just includes extra episodes and stuff. So please, if that's something that interests you, come and join me over there because there's some really cool stuff from this trip that I want to talk with you about. But it feels a little bit too personal to get into on a podcast that's going to literally be streamable everywhere. So yeah. All right. So let me go back. I had planned to go to Costa Rica on a yoga retreat, which I want to start by saying I had so many feelings about because I was scared of kind of just adding to this culture of like Western affluent people going to another country and like utilizing their resources and their space as a way to like spiritually connect to themselves and then like not give back to the land, not give back to the people or anything like that, and just kind of use it and like reap it of its like I don't know, like that's what I always saw it as. Like when people go on retreats and other places, absolutely no shade if you have been, obviously not. I literally did that, so I understand. But I was really conflicted about it, but I trusted this specific retreat because I really vetted it. I made sure that I knew the people who were doing it. I knew their intention. I knew what they were connecting to there. I knew that they were going to make sure that everybody who came tipped the hell out of every single person who helped us throughout the way, every single driver, every single person who prepared our meals, every single person who led any kind of ceremony. And that just felt more right for me. It felt more right to be conscious about how I went about this. And obviously I'm not perfect. I probably, could do things better. And if you notice that, please tell me. Like I want to do better. I don't want to ever exploit people or anything like that. So yeah, that was why I was reluctant to go on the trip, but I did know that I really needed to do it. I felt like I really needed a reset. I love to travel, and it was a bit intimidating for me because I am a young girl and this was my first time going out of the country on my own. I have been out of the country with my family where somebody else has made sure I have my passport and they can lead me through immigration and they're going to plan all the stuff that we're going to do and all that and financially support me because I was a child when I went out of the country with my parents, but it felt really intimidating to go out of the country as on my own. So the idea of going on a retreat sounded amazing because I loved the idea of kind of paying for everything beforehand, having it all inclusive. All of our meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, were farm to table, and they were all prepaid for. So I just had to show up. All the excursions prepaid for. Going on a retreat with somebody who is planning it makes it so that I can kind of like mentally kick my feet up and just be present and not have to worry about my next meal, my next ride, my next activity, etc. So that's why it was super appealing for me. And I went on this retreat, and that was a week ago. It was January 5th. And I mean, I remember walking off the airplane and I just got tears in my eyes because I just felt like, wow, I really did that. Like, I really did it. I really saved my money. I budgeted. I made it happen. I did my payments because I was on a payment plan, candidly speaking, to make the trip happen. So, I just felt so overcome with so many feelings walking off of that plane and just feeling like, wow, this is my first time out of the country on my own. And it was a magnificent, independent, and free feeling. And throughout the trip, I kind of wrote down meanderings and realizations and quotes and stuff that really guided me back to myself. And I just want to share those with you. And hopefully that wisdom can also kind of help pull you back to yourself. So I have my manifestation journal here, my baby, but here are some things that really stuck out to me along the way. We're in our first yoga session, and the wonderful yogi that is leading us is talking about how our thoughts are kind of swirling around in our head when we're meditating or when we're doing yoga. And a lot of people I've noticed, and myself included, get really caught up in this like, I can't meditate, my thoughts are moving too much, I can't still my mind. And for me, I kind of just feel like meditation, this is something I wrote down, isn't the absence of thought, but it is the release of attachment to them. And that gave me a lot of clarity in the fact that like my thoughts are kind of coming into my mind like cars on a highway, and I can see the car go by. I can't control that. I think, like, of course my brain is going to think, it's wired to think. I can choose whether or not to get in the car. And that's the difference. And I think that people get really hard on themselves when they meditate because they don't have that like completely still nothingness mind. They think they did something wrong. But I think really the point of meditating is noticing that more than anything else. So one of the wonderful things that the yogi that was leading us said was we liberate ourselves from thoughts. And that was specifically super helpful for me because I deal with a lot of intrusive thoughts, and I deal with many, many, many thoughts. I've talked about this so many times, but it feels like my mind is moving at a million miles a second. The thoughts I'm having in this moment at 1:26 p.m. are going to be different than the thoughts I have at 1:28 p.m. They're going to be vastly different. Like my thoughts are moving so quick, it's so overwhelming. The way that she worded that of like we can liberate ourselves from a thought was so freeing, really stuck with me. I also decided to set an intention for the week. And specifically for me, my intention after sitting with myself in meditation was it's time to let go, Rebecca, and it's time to come back because I have been holding on to a lot. And like I said, I'm going to get into that on my Patreon, but I have been holding on to a lot that was really causing me a lot of pain. And it was really stagnating the growth that I was looking to partake in. I don't know what the word is, but like it was really stagnating, the wonderful things coming into my life. It was so hard for me to enjoy the wonderful things coming into my life because I was so caught up in the past, and I was so caught up in the past's reflection of my present, if that makes sense. Like I was just so caught up in what was so long ago and how that was. And I was not allowing myself to experience new things unencumbered by memories of the past, if that makes sense. So that was kind of my intention for the week. And then as we did the ecstatic dance session, I think that was on maybe the first or the second day, I was moving my body and I was just really feeling the rhythm of the music, and I was feeling the energy of the waterfall and the land around me and the birds singing and everything. And I just thought for a moment, like, I am so free, and I am free for all the women in my lineage who couldn't be. All the women that were enslaved, on my dad's side is African American. Our ancestors were brought over from Sierra Leone hundreds of years ago in the slave trade. And, my mother's side who survived World War II, and, my nan, like my grandma, who was literally barely removed from me, was hiding in tunnels and wearing gas masks to school. And I just feel like there has been so much restriction, political, societal, systemic, of the women in my lineage, and of course the women in many of our lineages, because this has been the fate of the world so far, that women have been oppressed. And it felt like here I am. I had my own money. I made this money myself. I paid for this trip myself. I went here myself, and I'm moving my body freely how I want to. I'm not thinking about who's looking at it and what man thinks it's cute. None of that was coming into my mind. It was just like, I am free. I'm so free, and I'm free for me, and I'm free for every single woman in my lineage who couldn't be. And it was like they were moving through me, and it was ecstatic. I mean, it was an ecstatic dance session, so duh, makes sense. But yeah, it was incredible. And I want to encourage you, if you're a woman listening to this, if you're a man listening to this, if you are a person listening to this, in what ways are you free that you take for granted that your ancestors, who are not far removed, like literally probably your grandparents and beyond, were so not able to be free, whether that was because of economic reasons or, systemic reasons, like I said, etc. Really thinking about what are the ways that we take for granted our freedom, our literal like freedom to move, freedom to speak, freedom to feel, freedom to look inward, freedom to eat what we want, freedom to wear what we want, freedom to express. We really take that for granted. And kind of coming back to that, it's a sacred practice to be like, I am mine and I own me and nobody owns me. And it was a fantastic, fantastic spiritual feeling. And I honestly felt like my ancestors were watching me, and they were just like, they were so happy, and they were so happy I was so free, and they were like living vicariously through me. And I just had this thought afterwards when I sat in meditation that I have arrived and I feel free and I feel inside of myself, and that my ancestors love my freedom, which was very freeing for me because for a long time I've carried this guilt that I have dishonored my family. I don't know where the fuck that comes from. Like what? Like am I like what girl what? But I don't know why. Like I just want to do right by my lineage. I know that so many people worked so hard for me to be where I am, and I want to do right by them. And before the ecstatic dance session, I actually had like a little tiny bit of a hard conversation with one of my loved ones. It was like super small, but in the past would have been glued to my phone and checking their messages to see what they were going to say and anticipating what they were going to say and be so worried about what they were going to say and how what they were going to say was going to affect me and affect my freedom and affect my expression and so many things. And then I just realized that I can still be free even when I have challenging moments with my loved ones. And whoa, that gave me so much freedom. Like I was able to do that entire ecstatic dance practice and not worry about running back to my phone and seeing what they were going to say. Like I was able to just release it and be like, I can still be free even if I'm having challenging moments with others. Another one that the fantastic yogi that led us through our yoga practices had said during some of the more challenging poses and parts of our yoga practice was that she said, I love my body's challenges and I love my body's ease. And I needed that because having had 3 surgeries, if you're new to this podcast, I have had 3 surgeries on my knee. If you're not new to this podcast, you know all about that. I've done episodes on that. But having had those injuries, it is an active practice to stay strong and stable and sturdy in my body. That is not something I take for granted. And it's something that takes a lot of work. Like I will have to rehab for the rest of my life. And that's not a bad thing. I used to think that was a bad thing. And no, I see it now as a gift of presence, a gift of intention, and a gift of honoring all the hard work that I did on the many days and months that I could not walk, you know? And that feels amazing to love my body for its challenges and love it for the ways that it calls me back to the present, and to love its ease, to really bask in what poses came really easy to me and what twists and what reaches felt good and easy and breezeful in my body. And I know that yoga can present some challenges, and I know that's why a lot of people stay away from it because they think they're not super flexible and all this stuff, when that is not at all what yoga is about. Yoga is a spiritual experience first and foremost, and it is not about getting your leg behind your head at all. And thinking about what are the ways that my body is challenged on a daily basis, and my heart when I get stressed out, and my shoulders and my chest and my head and the back of my neck, like, you know, challenges are happening in your body all the time. And rather than being averse to them, how can I love my body still through all of its seasons? Through the fire ritual, which I will get into in much more depth on my Patreon, like I said, one of these thoughts that came up to me and I had to write it down was I love you and I release you, because I was releasing some really hard stuff, and being able to hold these two truths that like you can deeply love someone and you can see that you deeply need to release them at the same time. They can exist together, and it's not like just because you chose to let someone go, I mean, you don't care for them. You don't yearn for their highest evolution. But it also does mean that like you do have to let them go, and you do have to see that you have to grow beyond this and you have to cut that cord. And I kept saying to myself, I love you and I release you. I love you and I release you. Finally, one of the wonderful things that my friend said, Aurora, my beautiful friend who was on the trip with me, had talked about picking your heart. And she had said that you can do what feels easy now and then makes things harder later on, or you can do what's hard now to make things easier later on. And I know that sounds really obvious, but I honestly really needed that, because I feel like there are so many times where I avoid the hard thing in the present moment, and it just makes things harder later on. But if I could just let myself be with the hard thing right now and make the hard choice right now, how much freedom, how much ease could I experience down the road? So these were some realizations that I had. I love you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for engaging with me. You mean the world to me. I don't even know you, but I know that I love you. I know that I'm appreciative of you for caring to listen to my voice for 20 something minutes. I know that I wish your path to be simple and full of light and full of bliss. And I know that I'm hoping for your highest evolution always. And I love you so deeply. And I really thank you for being here with me. And I hope that this wisdom sheds a little bit of ease into your life the way that it did for me. So, with that being said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and head on over to my Patreon and talk a little bit more about some of these experiences and some of the more crazy stuff that went on. But I hope that you have a really beautiful day and a gorgeous week ahead of you. Remember that you are constantly on your path of evolution, and every single little tiny waver is all part of the highest expansion forward. So, yeah, bye.
So, my own stuff,